Good morning, everybody. So my cohort is not with me this morning yet. He will be. He will be on there. He's just got a thing that he has to do this morning, so he'll be on. But here's the thing. I'm so excited. So Representative Tom Gann was on with us last year. It was funny because when I was going to pull up everything for the video this morning, I absolutely died laughing because when we had him on, it was last year in February on the 7th. And I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. So we got that knocked out. So I guess he's going to be our yearly guest on the 7th. I don't know. But if you don't know about Representative Tom Gann and you're interested in the surveillance state, you need to know who Representative Tom Gann is, because he has been fighting for we the people against the surveillance state almost by himself until we got a few helpers in the House there to help him, but almost by himself, because the issue of surveillance in this country has become a public safety issue. And it's very easy for the police to be able to say, well, if we don't have this, you won't be safe. And people, for some reason, people today are more concerned. It seems like, I don't know, I've not done a poll, but it seems to me like more people are concerned about safety than they are about their personal security, their personal liberty, their ability to have privacy in and among their papers, as it says in the Constitution. It shocks me daily to see how many people are legitimately ho-hum about this. Well, they pick that stuff up from anywhere. It's not like, you're not surveilled everywhere you go anyway. I don't get that. I don't even get that argument. I mean, just because it happens one place, it means it can happen everywhere. And just because it happens one place, that means that it's right. It's okay. So we're just going to go ahead and let it be that. And then we'll not even worry about it, because they already do it anyway. Well, I'm waiting for Michael to get on and kind of our feeds to populate. I'll just tell you a quick story. So if you haven't been following the issue of Real ID in Oklahoma, you need to do that, because that really dovetails nicely into this issue of surveillance. And Senator Kendall Sakieri has been really, since the teens, 2012 through 15, when our legislature was actually concerned about the safety of people in their privacy in their papers. They're not anymore, clearly, except for Tom Gann and a few others. But they just don't seem to care. It's all process to them. It's not people. So it's process over people. Well, the process of Real ID is that we have this so you can get on a plane. And we're all just supposed to go, oh, okay. The process. It doesn't have anything to do with the process. And processes come below people. And if there are any processes at all, those processes are meant to protect the liberty and sovereignty of the individual American citizen. That's what that's supposed to be doing. But right now, we have a situation in which Service Oklahoma is going to take the driver's license data. And remember, in Oklahoma, it's a law. You have an opt-out. You don't have to be in the Real ID if you don't want to. You don't have to get one. But Service Oklahoma collects all your driver's license information, correct? Because they're the ones that are behind the tag agencies doing all of the paperwork. So Service Oklahoma was going to take all the driver's license data and dump it into this database, which is basically a private company owned database that they were then going to funnels directly into the federal Real ID database. And so I had a TikTok video that accidentally went viral of talking about this issue and talking about how Kendall was trying to protect against that. I had so many comments on that video. It's got something like 400 comments now, and I'm not sifting through all of them, but there were so many comments on that video that were basically like, well, geez, you don't think we're like surveilled everywhere we go anyway? What difference does it make? They all have our information. I am telling you, I simply cannot understand that thought process. If you have anything on me, you better not. You better not. And if I find out, I'm going to be just as pissed about that as I am about all the rest of the stuff. When did we get to the point where we're not acting on our own behalf? Who runs the government? Processes and special interests? Oh, that's right. They do now. Why? Because we quit. We don't get involved. It's our government, but yet we've put the whole thing on autopilot. It's flown into the ground and we're like, oh, I don't know what to do now. Well, here, I'm going to bring on Tom Gann because I've preached on that. And we're going to start talking about how you can make this stuff stop. But you've got to let people know that their privacy is paramount. It's paramount. It's what the whole Constitution, you could argue, was based on, because we have individual rights in this country, not group rights. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Representative Gann. Good morning, Representative Gann. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
So you heard my rant this morning.
I did. I was getting into it too. That's pretty good, Jenny.
Well, I mean, honestly, do you understand? Are you like me? You just don't understand that argument?
Well, I think it's something that we see throughout our nation and our education system is that people really don't know what the government is designed to do and what the Constitution is designed to do to the government. And it's to restrain government and protect our rights, not protect us bodily. Government can't guarantee your safety, but the 10 amendments of the Constitution are supposed to guarantee our God-given rights, and the 4th Amendment is one of them. And people forget that. And I think we're too dependent upon what the government may do instead of questioning what everything the government does. We need to be asking questions. Why are you doing this? Why is the process for real ID more important than due process for individual rights? And I just have to commend Senator Sacchieri on her work. She's getting ready to go down a deep, dark rabbit hole similar to ALPR, because back in 2017, in my first session, when we dealt with the legislation about real ID, that was House Bill 1845. That bill on page 22 of the bill, and then in Title 47, let me get the Title 47, Section 6-110.3 states that it's illegal to share your data, Oklahoma data, with the federal government. And the reliance on third parties, like we have with Flock and then with this NGO or this outfit that they're going to share it with, if we knowingly share it with that third party and then they share it with the federal government, I don't think that gets us out from underneath the law. So she's got a lot of work. She needs a lot of support, and people need to pay attention and call their reps and their senators and ask them about it. Tell them to be informed about it.
Yeah, I mean, even just what I love what you said about asking questions. And by the way, there are a whole bunch of people on this morning saying good morning, good morning, morning. So they're all on here just to watch you talk about this. So you were on last year because you had an interim study on ALPR cameras and that was 24. Golly, isn't it crazy that it's already 26?
Yes.
Ugh, what happened there? So that was in 24, but then you also did another interim study in 25. You keep doing these, and I don't know why people aren't getting it yet. So talk us kind of through where you are on this and what you've been doing.
Well, the second one was a whole lot better than the first one. I think people are beginning to wake up, but the first one actually started with a question. And my question was, when they started talking about expanding the use of automated license plate readers on state right-of-ways, was and why are we having to pass a law to allow for this? What are we using ALPRs now? Under what authority are we using now? What's the chapter and verse there? And I still have yet to receive that. And that's how it started. last year. So the first interim study in 24 was just to make aware of what this is actually doing, what the statute says, and what the government is doing. And the government is really violating state statute because they're using this data to try to prosecute people who have violated the law. And the statute is clear, shall not use the data for any other purpose than the compulsory insurance law. So this kind of left everybody kind of stunned, and people said, well, you don't understand what we're really doing. And it, a lot of fog. You'd ask the law enforcement and they said, it doesn't matter what the law says, we're going to do it anyway. And we have to have a court order. This was stated.
Stop. A law enforcement agency says they're going to break the law anyway.
That was stated in the Senate interim study on automated license plate readers in 24. It was astounding to sit there and say that until they get a court order, they will continue to operate the way they are. And so we've got a real problem with this. Where the
I am still digesting.
Well, it was clearly stated, and it was clearly stated by a law enforcement agency. And this is the experience that we saw demonstrated and testified to by some of the presenters in our interim study this year. I had Marvin Goodman from Guthrie, who was a chief information officer for the Oklahoma Military Department. He spoke about his experience and Guthrie's experience with ALPRs and finally getting the city to back off their contract and rid themselves of the flock cameras within the city of Guthrie. But I had a really, probably one of the most outstanding people I've talked to about this so far, who is a defense attorney in Tulsa. Her name was Sheena Burgess. She is a adjunct TU law professor. She also is a principal in Smiling and Burgess law firm. Okay. And she and I had a conversation about this particular issue, and what brought this to light was her discussion with law enforcement about their searching of this database without a warrant or without a subpoena. And she started questioning that. It's asking questions, why are you doing this? She wasn't getting the answers that were correct, and she was alarmed about that. So she testified as to her experience in our interim study, which was extremely powerful, because she just flat out said, you're breaking the law. The law says you can't use this data for any other purpose other than the compulsory insurance law. And it's been adjudicated in McLean County, where the judge threw out and suppressed the evidence that law enforcement brought to the court, saying that the statute is clear, you can't use this. But
wait, back up, because these are the parts that I really want people to understand, because I'm so concerned immediately when the police, who are supposed to protect our safety and follow and enforce the law, are saying, tough toenails, peeps, we're going to do what we want. That's extremely concerning. But then the other problem that we have is that we have courts who go, do what you want.
Well, the courts are saying, this courts are suppressing the evidence. See, the law enforcement brings the evidence. The courts say, hey, we can't use this. It's against state law. You can't, it's not valid here, even though you're going to have to convict him on the criminal on something else. So the courts have recognized that the law is what it says. The courts have recognized.
Okay, good.
Law. And this is, again, problematic. Why doesn't law enforcement see that and have some sort of reconciliation here as far as what they're doing in light of the law? But they're not. They just continue on, and many of them are get advice from their local DAs that justify it and rationalize it, and yet it's still illegal to do it, and yet nothing has been litigated here in the state of Oklahoma against the Fourth Amendment. And because in the McLean County case, the judge said, we don't even have to look at the Fourth Amendment because our Oklahoma statute is clear. You cannot use this data for any other reason other than the compulsory insurance law, which I think the last time we talked, Jeannie, just the compulsory insurance law was problematic too. But so you have this delineation, you have as Sheena Burgess said in my interim study, the strongest language you can put in statute. It says shall not.
Yeah.
And she just leaned forward and said, "You're breaking the law." Just as clear as could be. And I think that was such a breakthrough to have somebody else say it. Somebody out there that spends their life and her career studying the law and defending people and using the law as it's intended. And it was just a whole lot more powerful. So we're getting a whole lot more awareness of, and as these things come to light, and as we discuss these principles that they say, well, this is in plain view. Everybody can see your tag. That's not an issue. People don't understand what the plain view doctrine truly is. And we explain that in much better terms. We said plain view says that if a law enforcement officer sees something illegal, he doesn't necessarily have to get a warrant. If he knows that this bag of cocaine dropped out of this guy's, shirt pocket, you don't have to stop and go get a judge and get a warrant. You can act upon it right there if it happens in plain view. But the fact that your tag is in plain view and you go up and down the street every day, that's not the same interpretation of this doctrine. And your tag number is actually the first protection by government for your rights because it's in code. It doesn't have your name and address and everything on your tag. It has a code number. So why is it coded like that? It's to protect your privacy. And yet that code can be identified and be tracked to that vehicle and follow you everywhere. So that's problematic. And we pointed that out in our interim study as well. So we went through in a little bit deeper fashion, more of the legal concepts behind what they claim is their right, is that they can do this without specific statute allowing them to do it. But what Sheena Burgess pointed out, and I'll take a breath here in a minute. What she pointed out though was that many and most law enforcement agencies do not have the policies in place to even restrict law enforcement from violating the law by doing illegal searches and seizures of people's personal information.
So I wanted to point out when you were talking about, because we talked about this briefly earlier before we got on, you talk about it being in plain view, right? Well, the camera is right there. You can avoid it if you want to. So there's actually a camera. Everybody knows I live in Luther. There on Triple X Road, there is an entry into I-44. Okay, so it's in the middle of, like, Triple X. We're out in the middle of, there's farmland on either side. Okay, there's not a development around here. All right. So at the corner of, I think it's 178 and Triple X Road, inside a person's inside a fence, so not on the easement, inside a fence, there is an ALPR camera. I can't call it a flock camera because I think Oklahoma City does not use flock. I'm not sure. Or I don't remember, but it is an ALPR camera. All right. So here's Triple X. Here's 178. Up here is I-44. Explain to me how I'm going to get onto I-44 without getting caught by that camera.
Well, it's action. It's triggered by action, by movement. So if you just move by it, whether you're in the car or walking or riding a bike, it's gonna take a picture of you. But the plain view doctrine doesn't apply to the cameras. It applies to the concept that police under the concept that police don't need a warrant if they see a crime in plain view. Which if that's, but that begs the question then: is everybody's tag that passes you by, are they a potential suspect for a crime? And so we have to interpret and understand the plain view doctrine correctly. Now, this man has a surveillance camera on his property. If he's not government, that's his personal business. The problem is the government having these surveillance cameras and storing this data. And this is another thing that we're getting past here, is that the contracts often read that the data is only going to be stored for 30 days. Well, on whose server does that exist for 30 days? And then when it's uploaded into the Flock system, this is a nationwide database and it never goes away. And what we've seen here recently as a development at this, as time goes on, more and more gets exposed, and more validation of what our concerns are have been proven by people posting things on the internet, and then just by what other people are saying. The sales promotion is the same in most states all across the country, and then the data and what's actually taking place and the concerns are slowly following behind. And we think at some point in time it's going to catch up, and people are going to start asking, why are you doing this? Why are we photographing and taking pictures of young kids and storing them? Why are we taking pictures of people walking up and down the sidewalk? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Because
So,
it's not about it's about people. It's about tracking people. It's mass surveillance is what it is.
well, and then let's combine that with the real ID, and then you tell me how we're not like China.
Well, we're getting ready to be like China. All the dominoes are in place. It's just getting ready to fall.
Yeah.
And
so I wanted to point out a couple of things that we've had on, because we've had some good we had a lot of comments this morning, and somebody said people just aren't aware because they suppress the information. I think that's exactly kind of what happens. Denise asks who profits from the data dump. It's not us. It's more about money. And this is an important one. Law enforcement works under policies, not the law, and this needs to stop. And that's exactly basically what you said. When law enforcement said, yeah, we're not following the law, that's okay. That's what we're going to do. Julia says compulsory is problematic all by itself. And last time we had you on, we talked about the possibility of just doing away with that law of having compulsory insurance. It doesn't help anybody but insurance companies anyway, because poor people still aren't going to have the ability to buy insurance. And then the state is going to get onto them and then give them a fine because they're not buying insurance. It's wrong. Compulsory anything is wrong. And so basically what allowed this nonsense to spread was a law that was bad anyway. It's just flat a bad law.
The compulsory insurance law and the technology and the license plate reader system designed to for people to have to adhere to the law to be used to do that was just a Trojan horse for mass surveillance is what it was. In fact, when you go out to my interim study, you can actually listen to the actual tapes in 2016 where they're discussing this in the committee, and the guy just comes real close to saying mass surveillance. He really does, and this is the DA, District Attorney Council lobbyist, and what they were going on. They were saying that Oklahoma had a problem with uninsured motorists, and that the uninsured motorists were right at 25%. Well, that was true, but that was true back in 2013. In 2013, they passed a law that required the sheriffs to take your tag if they found you without insurance. Then you had to go to the courthouse, provide proof of insurance to get your tag back. That had a dramatic effect on uninsured motorist rate, that physical taking of the tag. And Morissette spoke to this in the committee. He said, this is the process now. What's wrong with the process? But nobody ever questioned the data. Nobody ever said, well, are we 25% now? This was 25% back in 2013. What is it now? Nobody knew that it was 13.6%. And
but I got to ask you, Tom, what difference does it make if people don't carry insurance?
Well,
isn't that on them?
Well, it should be, but to get back to how all this developed, it was based upon the false premise of data that was used that nobody followed up on. And then the premise was based on a falsehood of a high uninsured motorist rate to allow them to justify the compulsory insurance law and tracking you with those cameras and catching you without insurance that way. So this is the way things happen down at the state capitol. is people come in and say, oh, this will save lives, or this will do this, or this will do that. And we have this problem, but nobody ever really goes and digs into it that deep. And so in order to understand it, I had to go back to that law. And by the way, they repealed that law in 2024. It was Bayshore. He had the repealer on that section of law that removed the ability for the sheriffs to take your tag and remove it from your vehicle and force you to go to the courthouse to get it back. So they removed it, and I told him that I thought there was a plan behind that, because that was the one that really was the most effective of keeping people when that got around, people started buying their insurance. They didn't want their tag taken, but they repealed it. So this is where we are. All we have is the compulsory insurance law enforcing people to have insurance. And I think that's a discussion for another day, because I think what's more important now is, what are we going to do with this mass surveillance state that's taking place here? How are we going to live from this point on? And we have to have an honest discussion about it. And this is, a lot of people say, well, this is anti-law enforcement, but it's really not. I mean, the cameras cannot protect you. If there's a crime that occurs, the cameras can catch that, but they can't react. They can't protect you from some sort of violent act that somebody's going to do to you. And it's really, we really need police on the ground. We really need more police on the ground. We need them on the corners. We need them in the communities. We need them on the ground, talking to people and knowing who your neighbors are. I mean,
so the argument that I've gotten very consistently is that, well, we need these things. This is my representative, John George, because I've had this conversation with him numerous times. And, he used to be the lobbyist for the FOP. So he used to be a police officer. So he's very attuned to that side of the argument. And it was constantly, well, but we've used these to catch bad guys.
Well,
okay. So my question has been this, and I cannot get an answer from any city council person I've asked or from my representative. How did you catch bad guys before? Did we just never catch bad guys? How come prisons have been full for years, for decades, for hundreds of years? How do we catch bad guys?
That's a good question. Trump didn't send in cameras to Chicago. He sent in boots on the ground. He sent people who were, to be able to make those judgment calls and understand what's going on in context and stuff. A lot of those cameras in Chicago just capture after the fact.
And here's a great, Hardknack Farm says this is great. They're still looking for missing children. So that's not a selling point for them cameras. It's not. Well, how many missing kids do we have out there? Well, if these cameras are so great, we shouldn't have any missing anybody. You just use them to find them.
Yeah, it all has to come back. It all has to come back to your right to privacy, your right to be left alone, in order for you to protect somebody else in downtown Tulsa. Why do you have to be surveilled in Luther? Why do you have to have that? And it just begs a question and then get into, what are they doing with this data? Where is it stored, and what's being stored?
Well, and that brings us to the. Do you want to go ahead and play that video?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go ahead and play. So, Representative Gann gave me this, sent me the link to this video this morning, and we need to play it because it is. I watched it, and it's absolutely. It's bad. So it's only 11 minutes. So hang in there and watch this. And then and if you can't hear it, I'll try to turn up as much as possible. Just let me know. But let's go ahead and play this video because it's dreadful.
A few weeks ago, using a commercial search engine, I very easily found the administration interfaces for dozens of flock safety cameras. I shared this information with 404 Media, and with John Gaines' help, that number quickly grew to nearly 70. None of the data or video footage was encrypted. There was no username or password required. These were all completely public-facing for the world to see, and some of them still are. You don't have to be an expert to find and gain access to this. You don't even have to type anything in to see every single person, vehicle, and activity that took place in these locations in the last 31 days. Whether you wanted to watch this footage live in real time or look at footage from a month ago, you could just point and click your way to it like you were watching Netflix. You could even open up the live streams in VLC or cast it to a television. Making any modification to the cameras is illegal, so I didn't do this, but I had the ability to delete any of the video footage or evidence by simply pressing a button. I could see the paths where all of the evidence files were located on the file system, and I could see their hashes and signatures. Some of the devices we saw were the familiar-looking Falcon cameras that you see all over the country, but the majority of these were Flock's new Condor cameras, which are designed to detect and track people. They're PTZ cameras, meaning pan, tilt, zoom. And they quite literally use AI to zoom in and follow you around whether you're a person of interest or not. In just the time that it took to count and verify these vulnerabilities, I saw a family in North Carolina load their infant and a bunch of merchandise in a Lowe's parking lot. And I suppose one could cross-reference their license plate with the Park Mobile data breach and find out exactly where the garage is that will store these new fancy tools. I watched a man leave his house in the morning in New York. I watched a woman jogging alone on a forest trail in Georgia. This trail had multiple cameras, and I could watch a man rollerblade and then take a break to watch rollerblading videos on his phone. How? Because the camera's AI automatically zoomed in on it. Just like it zoomed in on a couple arguing at a street market in Atlanta. So what? They're still anonymous, right? No, they're not. Within 2 minutes of open source intelligence using a commercial facial recognition engine, I found out that one of them just finished medical school and the other is dealing with chronic irritable bowel syndrome. The couple also just had a baby last year and they have a pretty concerning debt to income ratio. I also know that they drove over 45 minutes from their address in the suburbs to attend church in Atlanta that morning, and then they checked out this market and bought a sweater. I watched a law enforcement officer and ambulance escort a man having a mental health crisis in Iowa. I know this because the Cedar Rapids Police Department maintains a public database of every single emergency call in the city, as well as daily arrest reports with individuals' names, addresses, ages, and genders. Listen, I know that I'm being creepy right now. Just saying these words out loud nauseates me. But I'm trying to show you just a fraction of the information that anyone in the world with access to a commercial search engine has had regarding anyone who attended this market or walked on this trail in the last 31 days. And it gets worse. Here's an exposed flock safety camera permanently pointed at a playground near the Bay Area in California, openly and publicly broadcasting both live and archived video footage of young children playing unattended. Again, just saying this stuff out loud feels so incredibly wrong. But for me personally, the most impactful moment while validating these vulnerabilities was this. This resonated with me so much that I actually had tears welling up in my eyes. I've done this exact same thing so many times. I've seen a swing set in an empty park, looked around to make sure nobody was watching, and then just enjoyed the mindless motion that connected me to a simpler time. But this isn't something that most grown men want to be seen doing. The experience requires one to have a moment that is devoid of judgment. It's healthy escapism at its finest. And I realized that it's likely that this man didn't know that he was being recorded. And he probably wouldn't have done this if he had. This is a classic example of the Hawthorne effect, which is a change in an individual's behavior or choices when they know that they're being observed. Surveillance manufacturers love to talk about this effect when it deters crime. After all, someone isn't as likely to break into a car that's parked near a camera. But what they don't talk about is how it deters escapism. People are less likely to sing or dance or practice an accent or a cartwheel when they know that they're being watched. But escapism is often required for a lot of things. For example, when you learn an instrument or practice a skill for the first time, or even practicing line delivery for a YouTube video. The footage of the man swinging was powerful to me because it made me realize exactly why I have such a visceral objection to mass surveillance. It imposes on our right to find our own identities without judgment. And as someone whose identity and success is owed to ample amounts of escapism, this is a hill that I am willing to die on. I don't have the luxury to dedicate even more months to yet another flock safety vulnerability, but as you can see, this one is urgent. And frankly, I'm worried that it's already being exploited at the cost of the individuals who are unaware that there are even cameras in these locations. So I got in touch with 404 Media, who has been paramount in this same field of journalism and whose reporting has tremendously helped my research and content.
Together with YouTuber Ben Jordan, we found about 60 flock condor cameras that appear to be streaming directly to the internet without any sort of password, no protection whatsoever. These appear to be condor cameras, and they're designed to track people as they sort of go about their business. And of course, people don't have any idea that this is happening.
If you're coming into this cold, here's some context. A little over a month ago, I released a video detailing a long list of security vulnerabilities with hardware and services in the flock safety ecosystem. There are over 60 published vulnerabilities, so if that concerns you, check that video out. During and after the process of conducting that research and making that video, I was visited by the police and had what I believed to be private investigators outside my home photographing me and my property and bothering my neighbors. John Gaines, or Gainsec, the brains behind most of this research, lost employment within 48 hours of the video being released. And the sad reality is that I don't view these things as consequences or punishment for researching security vulnerabilities. I view these as consequences and punishment for doing it ethically and transparently. I've been contacted by people on or communicating with civic councils who found my videos concerning, and they shared Flock Safety's response with me. The company claimed that the devices in my video did not reflect the security standards of the ones being publicly deployed. The CEO even posted on LinkedIn and boasted about Flock Safety's security policies. So I formally and publicly offered to personally fund security research into Flock Safety's deployed ecosystem. But the law prevents me from touching their live devices, so all I needed was their permission so I wouldn't get arrested. And I was even willing to let them supervise this research. I got no response. But now, since the general public has access to live video feeds from search engines, let's just save the back and forth, and I'll literally read you Flock Safety's response to IPVM about their security from a brand new Flock Safety camera that's publicly deployed. Might as well, it's my tax dollars that paid for it. Flock is committed to continuously improving security. The devices in this YouTube video were not connected to the cloud, and to the best of our knowledge, not customer installed, so the security is akin to factory setting. It's like looking at an iPhone stolen off a truck before it was ever connected to the cloud. If a person were able to gain physical access to the device leased to the city, which is illegal, they still would not be able to gain access to the footage, as the data is only stored for a very limited time duration on the device following its transmission to the cloud. None of these vulnerabilities affect our cloud platform, where the vast majority of all evidence and metadata is stored.
I found another one at Young Street and Harris Road, also in Bakersfield, which is about 15 minutes from the other spot. So I'm going to go walk up to that now. You can actually see it.
So there, if your city or county or place of business or whatever feels satisfied by the company's reassurances, show them that. Many of the feeds that you've seen in this video were relatively easy to find and completely accessible at the time Flock Safety was telling cities that the devices are secure after they're deployed. And if you are in touch with your county or city council, keep a record of your correspondence with them. Let them know and fully realize that if someone gets stalked, robbed, harassed, or abducted as a result of a reported security vulnerability by a third-party surveillance vendor, they'll be on record for having known about it and approving it anyway. And they can explain that to their voters and constituents. I've said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it again. The underlying problem is not Flock Safety. The problem is cities wanting a cloud-connected, AI-enhanced mass surveillance system, but are too lazy to conduct their own security audit or research the efficacy versus risk. And it very much is an industry-wide problem. For example, other vendors in this industry have used my last video to shame Flock Safety on social media, being completely unaware that I had broken their own AI model before ever even having access to a Flock device. And I need to make it very clear that I am not the first and only person to find out about all of these enormous vulnerabilities. I'm just apparently the first person stupid enough to walk the expensive legal tightrope of making them public on a large platform. But I also have tremendously cool and impactful projects lined up for this channel that have taken a backseat due to the urgency of this. I want to go back to storing data in birds and inventing microphones to record volcanoes, but I'm happy to contribute to and stay active in the growing community of people standing up to this. If you don't subscribe to 404 Media's content and journalism, I highly recommend doing so. And if you're not already familiar with Louis Rossman, then go check out his channel and work relating to this, because it's hugely impactful and something that you can get involved in. Having seen and heard these Condor cameras in person, I can tell you that they are so much more dystopian and problematic than license plate cameras. And I wish that I had some sort of advice for people other than stay out of public. But some of them are literally pointed at people's private property. But in the meantime, I just ask that you don't lay down and accept the infiltration of your expectations of privacy. You need privacy to build your identity and refine the things that make you authentic. Thanks for watching. Keep creating. Happy holidays. Bye.
Well, if you have any, that has reduced me to being speechless. It did that to me before when I watched it, because I just thought you can't be serious.
Yeah, if anybody has any qualms about this person's ability to do what he's doing and to report on it as he is, I mean, the legacy media is dead, and we're just so thankful for people like this who have the technical experience to do that. But if you think that it's just his opinion, I can assure you that it's not. We, in the meantime, this all happened after the 2025 interim study that I had. This video was brought to my attention by another person in another town in Oklahoma who is experiencing flock cameras all across his small town. But we also tune in to other things that are happening in other states, and we were able to obtain the U.S. patent document for flock cameras. And I can assure you, this was never about just license plate readers. It's always been about mass surveillance, because the flock cameras have always had the capability of doing exactly what this man has testified at doing. And so are we going to be like China? I think so, if we don't put a stop to this. And how can we be assured, if the data is that available for everybody to view, how do we know the bad guys aren't tracking our children with the use of these cameras? If it has that type of availability, the bad guys could be stalking our children through these cameras. So, to say that these help solve crimes, I think it really lends to more crime being occurring,
perpetrated, because like he said, I mean, the most concerning part about that video to me was this: that dude looked those people up on the internet and knew why they were having an argument at that outdoor market.
Yes. And that the lady,
are you kidding me?
Yes. And been to church. So this is stored data. This isn't just live. He's not watching that live. This is stored. And did you hear that it's stored on the cloud? So Flock is benefiting from this financially. And the fact that this data is housed and can be withdrawn at any time. So say you're looking for a man with a beard and a microphone, like this person.
Yeah.
You could query the Flock camera data for that, and it will bring up whatever they have in their cloud that matches. And so this is just demonstrates what we've said all along. The policies that we're concerned about are not there. The safeguards for your data are not there. It is available to not only the good guys, but the bad guys. And why would we do that? And then it's also reinforced by the genuine patent document that you can get on Google and read through.
Well, but it's not just the patent document. If you've heard, and I can't remember the guy's name, if you've heard the guy who invented Flock ever talk at all, he talks about the fact that the only way, his belief, is that the only way we are going to be safe in America is that if we're surveilled 24/7. And because that just tells anything can happen and that camera can pick it up. And I want to hit this comment because this was a phenomenal comment. It's a case system. Rob Walmart and have all the surveillance on their side. Rob a home or a small business, and all of a sudden the evidence is reduced to statements only. My taxes paid to protect corporations, not my neighbors.
Well, that's an interesting take on that.
I think that's an extremely interesting take. When she wrote that and I saw that come across the comments, I thought, that's just crazy. And I still want to know, why is a private business allowing a city camera, especially out here, to be put on their property? That kind of triggers me a little bit too. I'm like, I don't even understand why that would happen. But well, I go ahead.
Well, that gets into the third party doctrine questions of why are cities that contract with flock cameras, the Constitution doesn't protect businesses, it protects people from their government. And when government goes outside and it becomes a state actor, there should be some consequences there. We're not only seeing it with flock, but we're seeing it with the Real ID here.
Well, I don't want to out the person that I've been talking to because we have a relationship and I don't want to do that. But I have been talking to a city council member in a city or in Oklahoma. And so I sent this person that video because I've had this conversation with this person since I found that there was an ALPR camera at that intersection all the way out here. Because don't forget, as Mayor Holt likes to say, Oklahoma City is the biggest land city. Well, I think we're number 2 or something in America. It's great. So while the boundaries to Oklahoma City come almost all the way out to where they touch the boundaries of Luther, all the way out here in eastern Oklahoma County. So Oklahoma City can do that kind of stuff, right? But I just find it reprehensible. I mean, you move out to the country to try to get away from all of the garbage that we're being pushed under, the people are in the stack and the pack and all the other stuff that people in the cities are doing. So you move out to try to get away from that. And then what do? It's just a big city boundary and they'll stick one out here where you are. I just find it reprehensible. So I've been arguing with a city council member and I sent them the video, and that the person was really upset by the video. I mean, I would hope any reasonable person would be, but then they said, well, hang on, I'm going to check with my police chief because, we've been told that this is not on the cloud, and I'm going to read you the response. Confirmed with PD, we have 2-factor authentication on any access. The officer who manages our police IT told me some other techno controls and protections that we have, which I don't understand. I trust this guy's integrity and technical skills enough that I have the highest level of confidence that our system is secure.
Well, that's what law enforcement's been told by Flock. But one of the things, when you mentioned about cities, when you mentioned about city councils, when you mentioned about law enforcement of governmental agencies, local governmental agencies, one of the things that this man pointed out and spoke to is something that Sheena Burgess, the attorney, the TU law professor, spoke to as well, that the lawsuits are coming. If you have a flock camera and that flock camera reveals some child on your playground in your city, and some nefarious person goes and harms that child, and from the information that he was able to obtain on that flock camera from the internet, the cities are liable. The local governments are going to be liable. And what she pointed out is that Flock, the contract with City of Tulsa that she read with flock camera in the City of Tulsa, only Flock is only liable for $100. Everything else falls on the back of local city governments. So when there is harm, when there is a problem that they're liable for, you and I as taxpayers are going to pay for this. And this has already occurred, Jenny, with the license plate readers in New Mexico. You had a 21-year-old woman and her 12-year-old sister pulled out of their vehicle, held at gunpoint because their tag matched a tag that had a problem with it in another part of the nation, and yet the license plate reader misread the tag. There was a misread on the tag. Now, who's going to be responsible for that?
Well, how could that happen? This is technology, Tom. And technology, that's why we need so much technology data centers data, because they do our jobs so much better. You're telling me there was a mistake?
Yes, and then also in Colorado, there was another woman whose family were pulled out of a vehicle, forced to lay down on hot pavement at gunpoint because their tag was misread, and this cost that Aurora, Colorado, cost them $1.9 million because of this mistake. And when you're just envision then the amount of information that's being collected on a daily basis by these cameras, and then somebody says, "Oh, well, it's on the computer. Oh, this camera read it. Oh, well, it's reliable. Let's go arrest this guy." You see, nobody is questioning the data. Nobody is questioning what are we really doing. Nobody has policy. And then here in Oklahoma, after our interim study in 2025, I've got some very interesting phone calls from people's own experience here in the state of Oklahoma, being held at gunpoint, elderly family members being forced to walk backwards, can't hear, and just scared to death that they're going to make some wrong move and be shot. So we have a real problem going on out here, and it needs to be addressed. And we cannot rely on law enforcement to have the technical expertise to say, well, this is what the vendor told us, that it's only here for 30 days. But they also, there's no value to the vendor unless they're able to store it and use it for other access from other law enforcement agencies to create the whole mass surveillance state. The value is in the data. They're not going to give that up. And so the patent then again reinforces the fact that it's a system that relies on a huge database that's queried, that has the ability to be queried to find all kinds of attributes like gray hair, orange shirt, wearing a necklace with earbuds in her ear. I mean, it documents all of that. It has the capability to do that.
So I'm not going to pull you into this, but I'm going to say this on my own behalf. So anybody who's watching wants to use this against Representative Gann, you can't. This is about Jenny White, not about Tom Gann. I have literally, there are there are things that you can buy on the internet that include your license plate from being read by these cameras. It is my personal perspective that we should all buy those, slap them on our license plates to cover the license plates. And then as soon as we get found out, because they'll say we're breaking the law because we're covering our license plate, then we take them to court and say the police and take the town, city, whoever to court and get them to tell me how it's their ability to violate my privacy. Because I think we all forget this one basic tenet, and it's what I say over and over and over again anytime we go through TSA or anything else. I, in this country, am innocent until proven guilty. I am innocent. The only way I can be proven guilty in this country is by a jury of my peers. So if you're surveilling me, you already believe I'm guilty of something and I need to be surveilled, because who is the only population that should be surveilled and is 24/7 surveilled? That's prisons, individuals in prison. Why are they in prison? Because they have broken the bond of trust with society by doing any of the things that violate the rights of other individual citizens, being robbed, being raped, whatever that might be. We are innocent until proven guilty. all of this nonsense about surveillance and safety is simply nonsense that people make up in order to be able to collect data from us that's saleable to other people and to have control over us. So while they're saying safety, we really should take the word control and put that control into that sentence where they're using the word safety and just replace it. I mean, thoughts?
I would say save your money, Jenny. What I would do is I would go to your local communities, your local towns, cities, states, ask for your flock records. In Washington State, it's been determined that this is all public record, so you should be able, through the Freedom of Information Act, find out just how much data they have on you. Make them give it to you, and then through the Institute of Justice, which was another testifier at our interim study this fall, had Alistair Whitney testify about and gave us an update on the lawsuit that is in West Virginia with a man who has flock cameras all outside of his. He cannot go anywhere within the city of Norfolk without being on a flock camera. So you can say, well, you can just avoid him. Well, he can't. He has to go through when he comes to work and when he comes home. That's just the nature of the placement of the camera. So there's a federal lawsuit going on right now with that. And then we've also had lawsuits where the placement of a camera was right outside the door of a person's residence, which photographed everything that they did. And he went to the city council, and the city council said, get a court order. We're not going to move the camera. So they went and got an attorney, and they have since moved the camera from outside his residence. We shouldn't break the law. We should demand our rights under the law, which is that if you have a right to see what the government has on you from that information, ask for it. And
but my question is, and I want to ask an attorney someday about this, and a constitutional attorney at that. How is it breaking the law if the law isn't just? If the law isn't constitutional, if it's not just, how are you breaking the law?
Well, it's about process.
Let's not go.
It is. I mean, we have the right to due process. And like you said, we can't be considered a criminal just because we drive by or a potential suspect just because we drive to work every day by a flock camera. Yeah. I mean, it's really flipped the whole. You commit a crime, and then the criminal's caught, and then you get a warrant, and you go arrest him, and then or go look through his house to find out for any other evidence. That's all been flipped over. Whereas you're a suspect and you're guilty, we're going to hold you at gunpoint, put you face down on the ground on the hot pavement, and then we'll see if we got the tag right. And it cost the taxpayers of rural Colorado $2 million.
Well, but not even beyond that, though, what did it cost the individuals, the American citizens that happened to? PTSD? My God.
Yes. The psychological damage that is done to not only the person through the experience, but then the confidence in your government.
Yes.
And, it's just bad.
Do you feel like at this point we should really have any confidence in our government? I mean, honestly.
I tell you what, government is so corrupt, and the reason it's corrupt is because people aren't asking questions or paying attention. And you have to pay attention.
Got to point our fingers right back at ourselves, don't we, Tom?
We are the government. You are the government. We the people. And so now it's gotten to the point, though, but when the people do show up, they're hit with, they're elected official. I signed an NDA. I don't have to tell you anything. Time out. This is where we are. And this also gets us into this current legislative session where we're going to see a series of hopefully transparency and accountability type pieces of legislation that'll be filed. That'll try to bring us back to where the people are in charge of their government.
Well, but again, So I think even you probably know, we've had a data center, that's trying to come into Luther, and we've got a transmission line. I mean, we're a mile away from the Red Bud power plant. And apparently this is now going to become the new central hub for all data centers, or so. I don't know. But anyway, we literally, a bunch of neighbors and I got together and we had a community meeting. I mean, we just went out and plastered the whole town with notices of this community meeting, had about 140, 150 people come to the community meeting to talk about how to stop this data center. And one of the things I talked about toward the end was, if you're upset about this, but you expect someone else to do something about it, you're in trouble. I mean, nothing's going to get better. You have to be the person who says, it's my government. When we say we the people, that means all of us, we as a group, right? All of us individuals, we the people, we have to be the ones making the government mind us, because it's our government. It's not the government of special interests. It's not the government of anybody else. It's not the government of processes. It's the government of we the people. And until people stand up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, we're going to have trouble. So when you see somebody like Representative Gann standing up on the floor of the House, when you have all these other representatives there that are put there by special interests, who only want to see special interests, they don't really care about we the people and the individual rights that we possess and the ability we have to direct government, you've got to stand again right behind Representative Gann. You've got to help him in any way you possibly can. He is one of the few out there who understands what the government is. It's we. And he's willing to stand there for you, but he's going to have a lot better chance of doing that when we stand behind him. So let's say you don't want to be the person out there speaking at a community meeting or, taping things to mailboxes, then at least stand behind Representative Gann. Somebody on this stream a second ago said something like, well, I'm so glad people are waking up to this now, but it's too late. You know what? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. It is never too late. And the only time you get to say it's too late is when Jesus comes back and pulls us all off the planet. That's when it's too late. Sorry.
No, I don't think it's ever too late. In fact, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. We've got a piece of legislation that will require your legislator to reveal whether or not that he has signed an NDA or your elected official. I mean, I tried to get them outlawed, but you couldn't even get it heard. I tried to have TIFs go to a vote of the people, but I was told by a lobbyist of local government say, well, if we did that, we'd never get a TIF passed. So, this is the exact verbiage that he said. So people have to question their representatives, their senators, their council members. Who do you take money from? Do you take lobbyist money? Do you take PAC money? Are you, what bill, is this a constituent request bill or is this a special interest bill? So we may even have some lobbyist impact statements or maybe a corporate impact statement as to whether or not the bill is, who has the bill, who is sponsoring the bill, who wants the bill. There's stuff that people are trying to do, but it won't do any better than to have somebody call their rep or their senator and say, hey, what gives? What's up with this? And question your representative.
Yeah, but don't you believe, and I'm curious about your take on this, don't you believe that if people knew, I mean, some of our neighbors don't even know who our rep is, right? And our senator is. And I love them and I'm happy to instruct them. But don't you think that the day that we know who our senator and our representatives in government are, and we meet them face to face and we shake their hand and we say, here's what we need, and not just me, but like a whole bunch of us do that. Like you get together in groups in your, I mean, in the GOP, they call them precincts. I don't really care about any of that. I just care about getting together as neighbors. And if a whole bunch of neighbors would get together and go visit, just visit your rep and your senator. Hey, this is who we are. We're out here watching you. We're really keyed in on what you're doing. We're for individual liberty. That kind of, don't you think it would start to make a difference?
Yes, I would start with your school board member. I'd start with your city council member, your county commissioner, your local sheriff. You got to work your way up the food chain, and even don't stop. You need to probably contact your U.S. Senate, your U.S. congressman. People need to know that or the representatives of people who are elected need to know who they or be reminded who elected them. It wasn't the special interest group. It was the voter.
Yeah, our government is just so upside down. Let me ask you this question, because I've asked you this before, and I know we don't want to get into the weeds on it, so I won't put you in the weeds, but I just want a sort of a question, a time to answer this. Do you think if we could somehow get that insurance law repealed, that this would go away, or that they would just never hear it? Or, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
At this point in time, I don't think that there's a legislative fix to this. We already have in statute the word shall not use this data to do that. And the compulsory insurance law is something else. Yeah, you can take a look at it, but I don't think removing that element out of it would really cure the surveillance state that's been unleashed here, because this really goes back to the Patriot Act,
yes,
9/11, and what transpires. You have facial recognition already in Tulsa International Airport. If you want to get on the plane quicker than anybody, let them scan your face. And so this is just something that we're going to have to do, and have to decide as a people just how much of this is we're going to tolerate. And so I don't think it's by removing the current piece of statute, or really right now at this time. We're still in the awareness phase. I mean, we're still trying to tell people what this is, and at least get them to believe it. That, you're just not making a political statement or trying to make a point, that this has some real world victims to it. They're not, they're out there. You've got to go find them. That they're not on the news on a nightly basis, because the news is kind of tied into this. They don't want to make this to be an issue, but it is.
Okay. So Justin, who thinks it's hysterical that y'all can fight this by doubling down on what got us here in the first place. So I'm going to ask you, how do we stop it? Or maybe we should ask Justin, because apparently Justin knows. So Justin, tell us how to fight it.
Well, tell him what it is you mean doubling down on the process that got us here in the first place. So
well, I don't know exactly. I'm not sure then if that means devoting your sovereignty to another man is and always was the problem. So I'm assuming he's a sovereign citizen. And so a lot of people, I think, don't understand that concept. And I think, as a matter of fact, that at this point in time, unless we're all going to do that is not going to help us. So I think what we have to do is use the tools that we have in front of us and what the law provides. And
well, we live in a representative form of government.
correct.
Where it's required that we elect certain people to go and represent us at whatever elected office there is, but
right.
But then, you can't just throw your ballot in the box and then go back on your merry way anymore. There's people have to be people are swayed. A lot of people are pulled away from that experience of being elected to just being a pawn in a process of money and influence and everything to try to that tears them away from their first love, which is their constituency, and that's
But
what happens.
do you think so many, and I hate to put, I probably shouldn't even ask you this question, but so I'm going to reframe it as a comment. I think, and this is what my husband says too, bless his heart. He says he thinks that the majority of people who run for public office are sociopaths. Really, all they want is money and power anyway. And I tend to think that what we've seen, at least for the past, I don't know, I may say 8 years, possibly a decade for sure, is a lot of that happening in Oklahoma, where people run, but they run because the the private interests fund their campaign, and they really are running because the private interest wants them to run, because they want the person to do something, use government to help the private interest and not care for the private citizen. I mean, that just is what I've kind of seen happen.
I think what we're seeing here is a trend to if the populace, if the electorate would demand from whatever candidate is running for office, demand that they abstain from that money, to not take that money, and to pledge to not take that money once they get elected. And that's easily traceable through the Oklahoma Ethics Commission, because I think that's your biggest draw. That's the biggest dividing line is who is influencing your representative through money and meals and other things. And that's a question you have to ask anybody running. Are you going to take lobbyist money or PAC money? Are you going to go and to the $100 steak dinners and everything? And are you going to be the same person a year from now that if you get elected that you are today? And that's a question to ask.
And I do think, because I've been around, a long time, almost 15 years now, in government and in politics in Oklahoma. And I have seen so many people that were really decent people get elected, and they get swayed. They go to these dinners, they go, meet with these people. It gives them that sense of, hey, I have a little power here. Look at that. People are looking at me. Hey, they think I'm important. And then little by little, it erodes their sense of duty.
Mm-hmm.
And their sense of duty gets all screwed up, and they forget that their sense of duty belongs to the people in their neighborhoods. And I'm going to say neighborhoods. I'm not going to say precinct or district or anything else. People in their neighbor, just the regular Joe who's forced to pay taxes for crap that they can't even use half the time, and it doesn't even apply to them.
Yes. And the fact that you ask them about those moneyed interests, that's a good insulator to keep them from betraying them. But also the system has to allow your representative to represent. Your system has to be allowed for your representative to make a motion, your representative to put forth a bill to be heard. Your system has to work in order to allow your committee process to be independent, your representative to be able to represent. And without that, that's probably the next biggest demand front that we're going to have is that the system has to work for the people and not for just the oligarch that's in charge right now.
Because it's not right now. You're going to have to help me with this. Charles Key has been pushing the open government petition for a long time. I believe it's open government. Am I wrong? Help me.
I'm not familiar.
Okay. He wants a bill to force every representative to at least be able to get I think 2 bills heard.
Okay. Yeah.
Eh,
Yes. Okay. Yes, he's right. I think that that is part of the set of rules that I proposed with HR 1001 to try to disperse that power back into the people that you elected, and not give your power away to 1 or 2 people to go make all the decisions. So yeah, that is a good concept, and it's one we need to get back to. It's one.
Now, are you rerunning that again?
Well, all right. So the rules only come up every session.
Oh,
And so we're in the 60th legislature. So the 61st legislature will be another opportunity to make some headway with that, because we have administrative law, we have statutory law, we have constitutional law, but we also have parliamentary law, which is based on Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. And then the rules that are decided on by the House through this process that we have on how we're going to do our work down there cannot be restrictive on your representative. It needs to allow for your representative to represent, and they need to understand that if they vote for a set of rules that doesn't do that, then they're just betraying the people that elected them there, and you have to understand it for that. So I think we're going to probably make another hard run at that with trying to educate people on really that it's the system that also needs to be changed.
no, I mean, that's an excellent point. I am not a term limit fan. I'll be honest. I'm just not, because what ends up happening is the good people get term limited, and just as much as the bad people get term limited, and we want the good people to stay in. When are you term limited?
I'm term limited in 28, and term limits are, I have seen the dark underbelly of term limits. It has an effect on the way your representatives treat the agencies, which is a creation of the legislature. So you don't have a whole lot of accountability there, which systematically your legislator or your committee chairs ought to be able to subpoena your agencies to come in and testify before that particular policy committee. But that's no longer an option with the committee chair. It has to go all through leadership, and of course, well, that's because the rules were voted in that way, and so you have a you've got a real problem there that term limits. Although it sounded good in the beginning, I just think that there needs to be. I think that could be mitigated. We could probably still have term limits, but mitigate the administrative state overpowering the legislature by getting good reps in there who won't waste any time and go after these guys and hold them accountable.
Well, but I think my biggest concern about term limits, and I found this to be 100% true. I'm just curious what your thoughts are. I've just found it to be 100% true. Once we got term limits in, it just helped people disconnect further from their government, because they just went, oh, well, he may stink on ice, but he's only going to be in there for 10 years. So I don't have to worry about that. And I just saw, people just go, well, I until we make people fully interact with their government.
Jenny, it takes about 5 years to really get your feet underneath you to figure out what's going on, because there's no training down there. The goal is to keep your freshmen, sophomores in the dark as long as you can. And we need people who, when they do get elected, understand the Constitution, understand what's required of the legislature, understand the dynamic between the legislature, the Senate, and the governor as far as the state of Oklahoma goes, and then also understand parliamentary procedure and how that really is that ability to participate in a parliamentary way, how that is restrictive if it's not allowed, if it's not done properly, and how that really is a mechanism. It can be a mechanism for keeping people in the dark. and
Oh,
not
well,
be.
we have a lot of people. I'm looking on here, and as everybody knows, I love people to agree with me. So
Don't
we
we all?
just saying. Yeah, a lot of people that are saying the same thing about term limits.
I mean, you'd want to. So I remember the term limit. I remember the term limit because you had these party, or you had the Gene Stipes, you had the Herb Roselles
yeah.
that were
Yeah.
for ages, and they
Yeah.
were so powerful because of their longevity. So at
Right.
some point in time, I mean, only when Stipe left the legislature did that power shift again. But then when term limits came in, you had this shift, another shift take place between the rural areas and the cities. And then, your term limits go from every 2 years in the House to, maybe 12 years. So I don't,
Well,
I
in the
just,
place that we really needed the term limits, which is at the federal level, we can't seem to
yeah,
get it because I mean, you just look at these senators who have been, I mean, oh gosh, what was the guy? Senator Byrd, he was in there for something like
well,
67
McConnell,
years,
yeah,
and Mitch McConnell,
yeah. So
you know,
if it worked
good Lord.
perfectly, Jenny, the term limits are at the ballot box. You either
Yes.
1 year, you're there 20. So that's really the term limit is the at the ballot box.
Yeah, I hear people complain about, I think somebody even in this stream today has complained about like James Langford, for example. And I'm like, well, don't you have an ability every 4 years to vote for the guy?
Mm-hmm.
So I've never voted for the guy. I just don't. I mean, if there's nobody good that's running against him, I just simply leave it blank.
Yes.
So I mean, it always does frustrate me when people say, well, but he's been in there for so long. And you want to go, okay. Why is that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's what I want to end on because we're almost at 1:30. We did pretty good.
Oh, wow. We sure have. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
well, usually, it goes on for 2:30 and then people.
yeah.
So I think we've done pretty well. But here's what I want you to close with today, because I think that video was very powerful. And obviously, we need to, if you just have super quick access to your interim study from 25, then I will put that in with the information on this one. Or if you can copy and paste it in here into the comments, that would be awesome too. What can we do to help you? I would like you to please give us specific instruction.
Call your individual rep, call your individual senators where they are, talk to them. I talk to them about transparency, talk to them about accountability, tell them that, you're concerned about the lack of communication that takes place between your elected official through the use of NDAs. And we need people to be involved that way. And I think then just stay up. Don't hesitate to call if you have a question from the people that know. If you don't, Jim Shaw, Sacchieri, Molly Jenkins, these new people, they need encouragement. They need to know they're on the right track. Encourage your representative when they do good too, to touch base with them and let them know that you're supportive of it, because it's not always fun down there, but it is a duty.
Not always fun.
Not always. So
you're implying that it's fun at all.
It can be at times in certain ways. So
do you have any bills that we can be watching, putting on our radar right now and be watching for the upcoming session?
Well, the filing comes up on the 15th of this month. So be watching what gets filed and read the bills and let your representative or senator know that hey, I read this. What about this? If you got the time to read the bills, they're pretty easy to read. And understand that it says new law in it, and then the mandatory language is underlined. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand how these things are written. And then if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Here in Inola, what we're doing, Julie McIntosh, Representative Hildebrandt, newly elected representative out of Catoosa. There's 2 outstanding people out of the community that have chosen to serve. We're having a meeting in Inola to talk about the legislative process, how that happens, how that works, how you used to get it on the in the afternoons after school on Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes, you did.
But now you got to have meetings, and so if you have one of those in your community, or encourage your state rep to maybe come to a coffee, come to a meeting, tell us how this happens, tell us what's going on with this bill.
Well, let's not forget, you're going to be at the Liberty Oklahoma conference too, which is going to be next month. We've got to, I keep forgetting. I'm going so many different directions. I keep forgetting that we've got to talk about that, because that's one thing that you're going to learn at the Liberty Oklahoma conference is how to read a bill.
Yes.
So you're going to be taught that.
And so the bill then is when you apply the process to the legislation, the process has to be free enough to allow true representation to take place and let the bill fall or rise on its merits, and not have it constrained because somebody doesn't like somebody or they want this bill or whatever, that it should rise on the merits of the language and fall on it. And I trust the people to make the right decision. And so that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward. That's at Ocana, is that right?
Yes, it's at Ocana. Yes, it is. And you can get free tickets to the water park if you sign up quickly at libertyoklahoma.org. And our outroll has all of that information on it too. But you definitely want to sign up, because we have so many people that I even put it out on the information on the Liberty Oklahoma conference. I just sent it out to my email group on the transmission lines in the data center, because, these people are upset and they're angry because this has happened, but they've got to learn how to not let it happen again. And that's one of the things that, we're trying to focus on with this conference, is getting together with your neighbors, getting together with like-minded people who believe in individual liberty. I don't care about Republican or Democrat. I'm sick of that argument. Let's focus on individual liberty. That's what we need to do, and how you need to keep it. And so that's what we're going to try to do. And I'm so glad you've said that you would be a part of that, because if there's one legislator underneath that dome, well, it's beautiful actually, under that beautiful dome at 23rd and Lincoln, that believes in individual liberty, I believe it's Tom Gann.
Well, there are others too, Jenny.
Yes, there are.
They're finding their road to hoe. And we're excited about them being down there, and look forward to seeing more people that have that same attitude. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, I again, please keep in touch with me. You're so good about doing that. Oh, and that's another thing. I mean, he's so good about getting in touch with you if you get in touch with him. So just make sure you're keeping me up on any bills when they get filed, and let me know. And I'm going to try to keep a list of those on either the Liberty Oklahoma page or the Rope page, either one, both, so that we can keep people up on that. But Representative Gann, God bless you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you for helping to protect our individual liberty, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Jenny.
All right. Bless you, and I will talk to you soon, I hope.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I thought that was an absolutely phenomenal. I just thought that was a phenomenal podcast. I mean, please don't write in the comments that there's nothing we can do. I just don't believe it. I just don't. And I want you to look at the elections that we had. I mean, I want you to look at people like Tom Gann, who are in the legislature already. I want you to look at people that we've been electing to go down there and protect your rights and be a voice for we the people, and not we the special interests. So please do not forget, we have an election season this year. This year is election season. You need to ask people specific questions who are running. What do you want to do about DHS? Do you feel like DHS is a problem? Do you feel, I mean, you need to really hone in on these issues that we've talked about on this podcast for years now. You got to hone in on these, and we've got to get people who are willing to worry less about the processes, unless it's due process, as Tom pointed out, that just the processes, and more about the person, because that's where we are. We've got to have our individual liberty returned to us. We need to be able to retake our government and go back to governing ourselves and not being governed by the oligarchs and special interests. So God bless everybody for being on with us today. It was kind of fun to be back. I missed Michael. He must have gotten really tied up today. But I enjoyed being back on with you guys for a full show today. I love the holiday season, but it's great to be back. Thank you so much for being loyal viewers. So appreciate you. But do make sure that you pass on our rope report to people so that they know to tune in. And on Friday, we are going to have Jason Murphy is going to come on and talk about the grading index that he's done. And I want you all to be there. And here's the reason why. If you're interested in running against your representative, or if you want to help bolster somebody that is running that you believe is going to be a good guy, you need to take the information that Jason Murphy has put out on Oklahoma State Capitol on Substack, and you need to take that and say, look, here's our senator, and here's what he's voted for. Really? No. Look at this guy. He's what my representative, John George, has voted for the green button over 92% of the time. So he just pushes the green button. I'd like to see somebody in there push a red button, like all the time, unless it's a personal liberty bill. Then we can push the green button. But I mean, you got to take this information, get it out, help those people that you want to get in there, and use that information to instruct the populace and say, here's why you need to vote for this guy, because look at what that guy's been doing. So do not miss being here on Friday, and we'll have Jason Murphy with us to talk about that. And outside of that, I think we're done here today. So you have a great Wednesday. Again, so happy that you were with us today. Really enjoyed being back. So happy that Representative Gann was on with us today. Take that knowledge, spread it around, and we'll see you again on Friday. Bye.